Welcome back to Elevation Perspective. My name is Mark, and today is our preview of the American League West Division in 2025. The 5 teams in the American League West are the Rangers, the Mariners, the Athletics, the Astros, and the Angels. The West has been a division dominated by the Astros for the better part of the last decade. But the Astros are not that dominant team they once were. They, of course, have gotten older. They lost some big players this offseason like Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman. They brought in some nice players as well, but are they still number one? Let's find out. Starting from the bottom, working our way up to the top here, in 5th place, I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Angels. The Angels had a pretty busy, pretty active offseason, bringing in Jorge Soler, Yoan Moncada, Travis d'Arnaud, Yusei Kikuchi, and Kenley Jansen. The conversation with the Angels always starts and ends with Mike Trout. In 2025, to try to counteract all of these injuries, Mike Trout is moving to right field full-time. While I'm not overly optimistic the move to right field will have a drastic impact on Mike Trout's health, I do really hope he can somehow find a way to play 120, 130 games. I think if he does that, he's going to hit his 40 home runs and perform at a really high level. Right now, the projected lineup for these Angels are Mike Trout, Luis Rengifo, Taylor Ward, Jorge Soler, Yoan Moncada, Logan O'Hoppe, Nolan Schanuel, Joe Adell, and Kevin Newman. Zach Neto will be the shortstop for this team once he's healthy from that labrum tear. They have Kevin Newman right there, a solid defensive-minded veteran. But once Neto is back, he will reclaim shortstop. He's one of the rising stars on this team. The lineup feels a little bit weak. I don't hate it. Definitely some talent around this group. Luis Rengifo is a nice high on-base percentage contact hitter. Taylor Ward and Jorge Soler are both 25-plus homer bats. I don't think we have any idea what Yoan Moncada is at this point, a former top prospect. Lots of injuries. The White Sox totally fell apart as well. Big power from Logan O'Hoppe. I think Nolan Schanuel is a guy who has great knowledge of the strike zone, just not a lot of power from the first base position. Joe Adell showed some really nice power speed flashes last year. I think the hit tool is not really there for him. Probably more of a 230-ish hitter, but has real power and real speed. And then the previously mentioned Kevin Newman as kind of a placeholder until Zach Neto gets healthy. I do think Jorge Soler was a very nice addition to this lineup. Not much of a fielder at this point, but he'll primarily be the DH for this team, play a little bit corner outfield. He's a real 30 home run bat. Even outside of Soler, I see probably 4 other guys who I can envision having 25-plus home runs in Mike Trout, Taylor Ward, Logan O'Hoppe, and Joe Adell. You have that much power, you could be decent. Like I said, lots of question marks around this group. I'm not overly optimistic, but it's not a terrible lineup. The Angels' rotation looks like Yusei Kikuchi, Jose Soriano, Tyler Anderson, Kyle Hendricks, and Reed Detmers. This is a very interesting rotation with lots of different variables. Yusei Kikuchi was the big free agent brought in by the Angels this offseason, got a nice 3-year deal. Kikuchi pitched phenomenally once he was traded over to the Astros from the Blue Jays last year. If he can keep those strides going, he could be a real number 1 for this team. Jose Soriano is very impressive on the mound, throws about 101 miles per hour, very nervous about his health long term. He was shut down in September with shoulder and elbow problems. A guy who throws that hard, it's definitely really scary, but when he was on the mound, he looked really impressive. Tyler Anderson's a soft-tossing, kind of crafty, lefty change-up guy. He's pitched pretty well for himself the last handful of years with the Angels and the Dodgers. Kyle Hendricks is the guy here where I just have no idea why the Angels made this move. They also made this move very early. They signed him in the beginning of the offseason where I just saw that and I wondered to myself, why was Kyle Hendricks even given a big league contract? A minor league deal, invite to spring training, sure, but the Angels went out of their way to bring in Kyle Hendricks. I don't understand this one at all. And Reed Detmers in the 5 spot here. He's a guy with big-time upside. He's a really impressive left arm. He has to find consistency. He's had times in the big leagues where he looks like he could be a number 1 starting pitcher and times where he looks like he can't even be in the big league. So Reed Detmers, I think consistency is the big key for 2025. It's a bullpen with not a lot of household names, but I thought Kenley Jansen was a nice bring-in here this offseason. He's still a quality closer, even at 37 years old. He's a guy they'll be able to flip at the trade deadline if they do fall out of contention. Ben Joyce is the big pitcher here for the Angels. Ben Joyce throws about 104, 105 miles per hour. He seems to be the closer in waiting here. Once Kenley either moves on or does get traded, whatever it might be, Ben Joyce will take the closer role. Right now, the Angels' win total sits at 72.5 wins. This is a very tough number for me, honestly. I see this team right at this number. I see them going 72 and 90. For that reason, I will take the under at 72.5, but ever so slightly. In 4th place in the American League West, we're going to go with the Athletics. The Athletics did some interesting things this offseason, bolstering their pitching staff big time with Luis Severino, Jeffrey Springs, and Jose Leclerc. The Athletics also played much better in the second half of last year, so trying to take that momentum from the back end of 2024 and bring that into 2025. The Athletics lineup projects out to be Lawrence Butler, Brent Rooker, J.J. Bleday, Shea Langoliers, Tyler Soderstrom, Zach Geloff, Seth Brown, Gio Urshela, and Jacob Wilson. Lawrence Butler leading off is a guy I'm very excited about. He showed some serious flashes last year, had 2 dominant months. If he can find some consistency over the duration of a full season, he could put up monster numbers. Brent Rooker kind of took that leap into stardom last year, hitting .293 with 39 home runs. J.J. Bleday finally saw some consistent success last year, hitting .243 with 20 home runs and a .761 OPS. I view Langeliers, Soderstrom, and Zach Geloff all in a very similar light. These guys are big-time power bats. The average might be really low on all of them. I kind of see them all as all-or-nothing hitters at this point. I think Zach Geloff is a guy who could possibly take that stride, but had a very disappointing 2024 season. In the number 7 spot, we have Seth Brown, a power-hitting lefty. His spot is kind of up in the air to me. They have Miguel Andujar on the bench here as well. Then we have Gio Urshela. He's a solid veteran, really good defensive third baseman. Hits for a decent average as well. And Jacob Wilson, the former first-round pick, a really solid defensive shortstop who should hit for a high average. Looking at the Athletics rotation now, Luis Severino, Jeffrey Springs, J.P. Sears, Osvaldo Bido, and Mitch Spence. It's certainly not a phenomenal rotation here. They're definitely banking on Luis Severino, taking those strides he made with the Mets last year and maintaining those over this 3-year contract. Jeffrey Springs is a guy who's had a lot of different health problems throughout his career, but has had some really nice years with Tampa Bay. I do like J.P. Sears. I feel like he's a solid enough middle-of-rotation type of pitcher. And then Osvaldo Bido and Mitch Spence are total wild card lottery tickets to me. My only real complaint here is once they gave that crazy monster contract to Luis Severino, I thought in my head they're going to do a lot more here. They're probably going to bring in 1, 2, maybe 3 more starting pitchers, and they only brought in Jeffrey Springs. To me, that was pretty underwhelming. Looking at the bullpen now, the Athletics have the most exciting pitcher in baseball, in my opinion, in Mason Miller. This guy is absolutely ridiculous. There was 103, 104 miles per hour as this team's closer. I thought Jose Leclerc was a very solid veteran pickup here to kind of set things up for Mason Miller, having another high-leverage guy in the back end. And after those 2 big arms in Miller and Leclerc, not a whole lot going on in this bullpen. Right now, the Athletics win total sits at 71.5 wins. I'm going to take the over here. I see this team winning about 74, 75 games. I have some optimism about this group. The Athletics bats really do get me excited here. I see Butler and Rooker as 2 legit top-of-the-lineup guys. I think J.J. Bleday has a chance to take that next step as well. Like I said, I think Langeliers and Soderstrom, guys like that, are going to hit probably 220, but 30-plus home runs, especially in this new ballpark in Sacramento. We still don't totally know how the new ballpark will play, but the rumor is that Sacramento will play up big time offensively. With all that being said, I will take the Athletics over 71.5 wins. In third place in the American League West, I am taking the Seattle Mariners. It was another slow, quiet, just brutal offseason for the Mariners. The only real notable moves the Mariners made here was bringing in 37-year-old utility man Donovan Solano and bringing back Jorge Polanco. First base / third base veteran Justin Turner had some comments recently about the Mariners this offseason. Turner played the second half of 2024 with the Mariners. He talked about them very highly, said he loved his time there. He wanted to go back. Then he had this quote to say, "If I was the one piece they brought back in, I would be saying the same thing. What the hell are we doing? Are you trying?" I think it's very frustrating for all of baseball fans, especially Mariners fans, seeing this dominant rotation they have and seeing how putrid the lineup is. Right now, the lineup projects to be Victor Robles, Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, Randy Rosarena, Luke Raley, Mitch Haniger, J.P. Crawford, Jorge Polanco, and Ryan Bliss. Robles is very interesting to me. He's a former top prospect with Washington, but he never really looked like a big league hitter any opportunity he got. Then the Mariners got their hands on him last year after the Nationals finally cut bait. He performed pretty well for Seattle. Then they gave him an extension, which I thought was totally weird, but Victor Robles will be the leadoff hitter for this team, at least to open things up. Julio is a superstar. He's very streaky, gets off to very cold starts. Hopefully he kind of finds a way now that he's 24 years old, not that 21-year-old anymore, can find some kind of early season consistency. Cal Raleigh is very solid, an elite defensive catcher with big-time power, 30-plus the last handful of years. We have seen decline in Rosarena's numbers the last handful of seasons, but still a solid enough guy. I think he should perform at an okay level at the number 5 spot. Luke Raley's a solid enough, strong-side platoon guy, hits righties pretty well, hits the ball hard, also runs very well. I don't believe Mitch Haniger should still have an everyday role with any team, let alone a playoff hopeful team. J.P. Crawford is defensive-minded, not really much of a batter. Jorge Polanco was a big-time hitter with the Twins. He really struggled last year. He had surgery, maybe he can kind of go back to his Twins' ways here, but not overly optimistic there. And Ryan Bliss is a speedy defensive-minded second baseman. So you're going into another year here with only really feeling confident in Julio and Cal Raleigh. I think Rosarena was a nice pickup, like I said, but you're probably looking at a 230-ish average, maybe like 22 home runs. Not really a difference maker. Now on to the clear strength of this Mariners ball club, the starting rotation. Logan Gilbert, Luis Castillo, Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, and Emerson Hancock. This graphic is notably missing a big-time pitcher from the rotation as well in George Kirby. On Friday, March 7th, it came out that George Kirby is dealing with shoulder inflammation. He's been shut down. While it was reported that Kirby's MRI showed no structural damage, still a very concerning development. What I was thinking about all offseason long here, if the reports were true here, the Mariners had no money to operate, they couldn't bring in any offensive talent, then you have to make that decision to trade one of these arms. I know it's not an easy thing, starting pitching is in such a high demand, but when you have a lineup this week and you have all these pitchers, you got to make that move in my opinion. Especially since it seemed like Luis Castillo was the guy that teams were kind of seeking out. If that's a guy at age 32 years old, already in somewhat of a decline, who still owed a decent amount of money that you could have traded for a decent big-time bat, then you got to make that move. The Mariners have a pretty good bullpen as well with Andres Munoz in the closer spot. Right now, the Mariners' win total sits at 85.5 wins. To me, that is just too high. This team, to me, screams out 82 and 80, just above 500. The rotation's too good to be bad, but the lineup's too bad to be good. If that makes any sense, I'm not quite sure, but I will take the under here at 85.5 wins. In second place in the American League West, I am taking the Texas Rangers. The Rangers made some nice moves this offseason, bringing in Jock Peterson, Jake Berger, Kyle Higashioka, re-signing Nate Eovaldi, and signing Chris Martin for the back end of the bullpen. I wish this team did more on the pitching side, especially in the bullpen. Really good lineup. I think we'll get into that and be really excited about their offensive talents, but the pitching is very skeptical to me. Starting things off here with the lineup, we have Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Wyatt Langford, Jock Peterson, Adolis Garcia, Josh Young, Evan Carter, Jake Berger, and Jonah Heim. There are just no easy outs in this lineup. Lots of power, lots of dangerous at-bats. Marcus Semien, leading things off here, is a player I am worried about in 2025. He will turn 35 years old this season. He saw a steep decline in his numbers last year. And Semien just has so many innings on his body. He's been an Ironman the last handful of years. I worry about that kind of catching up to him. It remains to be seen. Maybe just a World Series hangover. Kind of all the Rangers struggled last year, but Semien more than others. Semien will open things up as a leadoff hitter, but in my opinion, I see him moving down this lineup toward the bottom half once the season really gets going. I love Corey Seager in the two-hole here. Phenomenal talent. I just expect him to hit 280 plus with 30 plus home runs. He is a true star. Just has to stay healthy. Always finds a way to kind of miss a month of the season or so. Langford is a guy that the whole baseball world seems to be really excited about. A former top first-round pick 2023. Had a pretty impressive rookie year. Looks to build off that in 2025. Jock is a righty killer. Absolutely destroys right-handed pitching. I thought that was a really nice free agent pickup for them. Garcia struggled mightily last year. I think he's a player that we might have to watch to see if his run is kind of over. Just 32 years old, though, had a late breakout to his career. I think he'll always hit for power, but I'm not sure if the average is going to be there in 2025. These next two guys here in Young and Carter, two former top prospects who have had a hard time staying on the field. I thought Jake Berger was a nice pickup here, trading for him from the Miami Marlins. I feel like he'll roll out of bed and hit 30 home runs in his sleep there in Texas. And the combination of Jonah Heim and Kyle Higashioka should be very solid behind the dish. Now for the rotation here. Like I said, I just feel like it's a little bit messy. I don't know if that's being unfair, but Nate Eovaldi, John Gray, Tyler Mahle, Cody Bradford, and Jacob deGrom. My biggest concern here is the two big-name arms in this rotation are both over 35 years old, with both a decent amount of injury history in their past. I am a lifelong diehard Mets fan, but I'm really hoping deGrom puts a healthy season together in 2025. Baseball is better when deGrom is on the field. Eovaldi has proven to be a solid, probably mid to high threes ERA. He's pretty consistent there every single year. Then we have some serious wild cards here in John Gray, Tyler Mahle, Cody Bradford. I don't really get overly excited about any of those players. Important to mention, though, the Rangers do have Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, two pitchers that I expect to join the rotation at some point in 2025. Then the bullpen here for the Rangers doesn't really instill a whole lot of confidence either. Chris Martin was the big signing here for the bullpen. He's going to be 39 years old early in 2025. Robert Garcia they traded for in the Nate Lowe trade with Washington. After that, a whole lot of unsure names in this pen. David Robertson pitched for the Rangers last season. He remains a free agent right now in early March. I feel like if they pull the trigger there, bring Robertson back, this bullpen looks a whole lot better. The Rangers' win total right now sits at 85.5 wins. I'm going to take the over here ever so slightly. I see them being in between like an 85 and 87 win team. Very relevant in both the American League West and a wild card picture. The Rangers are going to mash. I'm just not sure if the pitching will back up the bats. And the team I am taking to win the American League West, even after losing such key pieces in Alex Bregman, Kyle Tucker, and Ryan Presley, I am still taking the Houston Astros to win the American League West in 2025. Boy, were the Astros busy this offseason. We already spoke about who they lost, but they brought in Isaac Paredes, they brought in Christian Walker, Brendan Rodgers, and Hayden Westnewski as all pretty key parts of this team going forward. One of the most interesting storylines in all of spring training to me is Jose Altuve moving to left field this season. Altuve is going to turn 35 years old this season, so definitely getting up there in age. Don't really see a player of his caliber changing positions so drastically. Sometimes maybe moving from short to third, but from second to left, this could be really interesting. Looking at the Astros lineup now, it looks like Jose Altuve, Isaac Paredes, Yordan Alvarez, Christian Walker, Yainer Diaz, Jeremy Pena, Chas McCormick, Brendan Rodgers, and Jake Myers. Not a whole lot to say about Jose Altuve leading things off here. The guy absolutely rakes, a future Hall of Famer. To this point, he has defeated Father Time. We'll have to see when that catches up to him, but moving to left field, leading things off, a really phenomenal talent. Isaac Paredes is a guy that the whole baseball world is very excited about the fit here. He's a dead pull hitter, does not impact the ball hard, but with his swing in the Crawford boxes in left field in Houston, it could really play up his talent. Yordan Alvarez is an absolute superstar, going to DH more this season as an effort to keep him on the field. Christian Walker is another very nice fit for this Astros ballpark and lineup. Walker is a Gold Glove defensive first baseman with 30-plus home run power. Yainer Diaz, one of the best offensive catchers in all of baseball. He hits for a very high average every year. I like Jeremy Pena, a great glove at shortstop. Also has some power speed to him too, probably 15 home runs, 15 steals. Things do get messy here in the 7, 8, 9. Chas McCormick was a guy who played really well in 2023, really struggled last year in 24. I think Brendan Rodgers is a solid player. He had a pretty decent career with the Rockies. I was surprised they non-tendered him. A great defensive second baseman with an okay bat, nothing really crazy, but definitely a solid enough player. And Jake Myers is another guy here who you don't really expect much from offensively, but a great defensive player. The Astros rotation looks like Framber Valdez, Hunter Brown, Ronel Blanco, Spencer Arrighetti, and Hayden Wesniewski. Framber Valdez has solidified himself as a true ace in the game, one of the best sinker ball or ground ball pitchers in the entire sport. Hunter Brown had a terrible start to last year, but the last 5 months or so, he was a true stud, an ace-like pitcher. Ronel Blanco is a guy who kind of came out of nowhere last year, but pitched really well. I'm definitely skeptical about Blanco going forward, but as of right now, from the limited stuff we saw from him, he looks like a decent starting pitcher. Arrighetti is a strikeout artist. He's shown some great flashes in the big leagues already. Has to find some kind of consistency here. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he follows in Hunter Brown's footsteps and takes that next step in 2025. Wesniewski should be interesting to watch here. He's a guy who's been a swingman for the Cubs the last handful of years. He was a key component in the Kyle Tucker trade. To me, that means the Astros are very confident in this pitcher, so I want to follow him closely in 2025 as well. The bullpen is still very strong, even losing Ryan Presley. The closer is Josh Hader, of course, with Brian Abreu being one of the best setup men in all of baseball. Right now, the Astros win total sits at 86.5 wins. I'm going to take the over here. I see this team being between an 88 and 90 win team. I think the biggest factor for me here is, yes, I can acknowledge the Astros got worse, but I don't think any of the other teams got significantly better. For that reason, I still have the Astros winning this division. And that is our preview of the American League West. Just to recap here, I see the Angels in the 5th spot and the Athletics in the 4th spot. Pretty similar positions, but the Athletics a tad better. Our 3rd place Seattle Mariners, a team with elite pitching but a very poor offense, finishing somewhere around 500. 2nd place Texas Rangers, trying to shake off that World Series hangover from 2024. Made some nice additions this offseason. I see them around an 85 to 87 win team. And the Houston Astros, who just seem to refuse to die. Not that same team we know with the likes of Springer, Correa, Bregman, Tucker, but they're still going to find a way, in my opinion. I have the Astros winning the American League West. With all that being said, if you like this video, please hit subscribe. Hopefully everyone enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching.